recess meeting order, joint meeting for school board.
They've started.
And I'll turn it over to Chair Robin Wood.
Okay, well, our meeting to order, our Wednesday, our special County Commissioners. I just want to keep on going, Mike. We need to approve our agenda.
Yep, keep on going.
All right, so I have, can I entertain a motion to approve our agenda as presented? So we have a motion, have a second from Ms. Watson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Next on our agenda is invocation. We all need a little prayer in our life. So if you all just bow your hands. Lord, we just thank you once and for all for what you do. I know I prayed earlier, you've answered all my prayers for my family this week. And Lord, I'm so appreciative of those. Lord, but we just come before you tonight is really, Lord, we're just public servants. We're leaders that I feel like you've entrusted with decisions that are going to affect our children, our schools, and also, Lord, the future of this county. We just ask for your guidance as we gather in this room. Lord, not as two separate boards, but as one body. Lord, that we're just seeking the right thing, and Lord, that we'll make the right decisions. Help us to set aside our past divisions, and instead, Lord, try to open our minds and our hearts to understanding, Lord, and also that we would have respect for each other, and that we're here for a shared purpose. Lord, I ask you to grant us the humility in our words, the wisdom in the decisions that we try to make for this county, and the grace in our disagreements that we have. We ask you to remind us that we're here not for ourselves, Lord, but for those who depend on us, especially the students whose future we're here to just shape by the choices that we make together. So may this meeting be marked by just the collaboration that we can have between the two boards, Lord, the clarity that we can maybe come to a consensus, and Lord, the care for the common good. We just ask you to lead us, Lord, that you would lead us as we work together. And God, we thank you for each and everything that you do in our lives. Thank you. I just wanted to start out by saying that we appreciate you doing a joint meeting with us. Tonight, we're here for one reason, and for us, is to talk about the future of our schools and our students, which is the most important thing. The school board that we're here to discuss isn't just numbers on a page to us. It's about our facilities. It's about our classrooms. It's about our teachers. It's about being competitive with our neighboring counties and opportunities that we want to provide every child that we have in this county. So the conversations we're here to have, I'm just hoping that we can work together. I know we say that each and every time we get together, we say we're going to work together. And it always seems that doesn't happen. But I'm hopeful that anytime we can sit in front of each other and have conversations, that relationship will maybe continue to build between the two of us. So, but again, we do thank you for the ability to be able to come. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Dennis. He's going to do our presentation for our budget tonight.
Thank you for all in attendance. I'm going to go through the budget, and after I'm finished, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to entertain them. If at any point I put something over you just don't know what it is, please stop me and just ask me what the heck is that. So first, I'm going to go through like my budget priorities and kind of what I look at when I ask the board, especially when we're in meetings with the finance committee, we're trying to craft a budget. And some of the challenges right now, or priorities, I'll say, is teacher quality. And that goes with as far as, having younger teachers needing PD and things like that, because we have quality teachers, and also recruitment and retention of teachers. We're also going to look at changes in some organizational responsibilities, and by attrition, if we lose some people, we're going to see if we can take responsibility of certain individuals, parse them out to other individuals, thereby not having as many people as if that is necessary as far as certain organizational roles. We do have to look at adjustments for inflation and state legislated salary and benefit increases. I know there's one in the House. I don't know if it'll pass or not. I mean, it's a stretch, bringing teacher pay, beginning teacher pay to $50,000, which would also, of course, there'll be a lot of costs associated with that we'd have to cover. We also look at our technology access and the recurring cost of technology. As that goes up, we want safe learning environments, building maintenance, upgrades, enhancements. We want reliable transportation, and that's not just the mechanical part of transportation, that's also the human capital part of transportation, and intervention programs, especially for struggling learners. So we use those to help craft our budget. I could go through this line item by line item. I gave it to the county in April. So I'm not going to get, all the way into minutia unless there's something you're like, I just don't understand where that comes from. So we kind of divided it up at personnel. Excuse me. And that would be 8 teaching positions. The teacher base pay increases to $50,000. We do look at 2 dentist units for AHS and AMS, which are currently in place. Central office administrative positions. The state allotment doesn't cover all that we have to operate. So there's those operating expenses. We do have to have student data managers, 23 of those at 1.2 million, $1.3 million. The bus driver pay 700,000. 4 maintenance positions we pay 8 athletic directors, athletic coaches, principal, assistant principal supplements. And I think I've talked about it before. The assistant principal supplements, basically 1 assistant principal for 1,000 kids, which just isn't attainable if you're going to have a safe school. And teacher substitutes around $2 million. With the local fund request, we would like to keep we would like to have EduCore tutoring again. We had it when COVID, and it went out, and we've had to do our own tutoring and use Title I funds for that. Advanced academic teachers, that's something we'd also like to have, and those would be teaching more of our AP classes. And we know with AP, kids like CCP. They like it better than AP for a lot of different reasons. But we would like to get back to that, but we would have to have especially some initial capital because the allotment will support the class sizes, their smaller class sizes. The certified staff pay scale, $1.1 billion. We upped our pay scale this year, and we did it in accordance with the state. Terry, if you have anything you want to add with that, and then the monies we had to incur in local expense to bring that up, correct? Okay. So teacher supplements, again, we're kind of hitting for that 8% mark. I'll just touch on that a little later. Hard staff bonuses at some of our schools, that especially that we have a lot of vacancies, and we would like to give bonuses to try to help entice people to want to work at the schools. We would like to bring back our secondary instructional coaches that we had, and the other one's just staff development travel expenses. A couple of new initiatives we'd like to have we don't currently have as a teacher academy. We are getting a lot of beginning teachers that are residency teachers, meaning they don't come in with your traditional degree in education and certification. So they've called it emergency certification. They've called a lot of different things. It's called residency now. And they need a lot of support because they've never been through your traditional programs to be successful in the classroom and while they work on the academics they need to acquire the teaching license during a certain period of time. I also wanted to have a Teaching Stanley Scholarship Program, kind of akin to the program that North Carolina has with the Teaching Fellows. And that would, we could look into several different options as far as whether we wanted them to go 2 years through the community college, a gateway scholarships and other things, Pfeiffer. And that would require them when they were finished to teach for 4 years in Stanley County schools. As far as maintenance, and Keith, if I say anything wrong, let me know. Maintenance utility cost, almost $2 million. Maintenance and repairs of facilities, 1.5. Insurance dues and fees, 575, and contract service, 535. Safety and security, we have, and Jennifer, you can tell me wrong, we have the grant for next year, correct? It's a 2-year grant, so we won't have to worry about that. We'll just needing the big funds. We'll just need the request for the rest of it, like normal. So this is Mr. Britt's technology request. And we had asked to break technology out from capital. Oh, no, so I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. This is just local capital as far as the software services. I'll talk about the other in a minute. Curriculum and co-curricular needs. The curriculum department's looking at classroom supplies at $200,000. There's the supplies for athletics and the band supplies. The charter school payments would be based on funds allocated, and the curriculum instruction support initiatives, $750,000. That's mainly we're looking at getting back. It's not as much electronic, and we did it in the middle school this year with some more traditional materials, paper, pencil, stuff like that. That's aligned to the standards. So there's the total local funds requested. Capital outlay budget. As far as facilities, we got some parking lots we need to repair. And so parking lot repairs and playgrounds is $350,000. So we have some intercom repairs. We have 2 intercom systems and maybe more. You can tell me, Keith, if I'm wrong, that we can't even get parts for anymore. We're going to have to do the whole intercom replacement, and it's rather expensive. Track repairs and replacements for Albemarle High and North Stanley High. tennis court replacement at North Stanley, South Stanley, and West. And I know North Stanley is particularly in a tight spot right now. Bleacher repairs, we've done 2 bleacher repairs already. They're very costly. We've done it at North Stanley High School and West Stanley High School, but we have more that we need. We have roofing issues at East Albemarle, Locust, North Stanley Middle, West Stanley Middle, and North Stanley High School. Painting, all locations, that's just standard painting. That's not repainting the entire building. That's just doing painting here and there. Window replacements at Aquadale, Locust, North Stanley High, and Millenport. Awning canopy repairs at the other schools you'll see, and ADA interior improvements in all locations, and that includes bathroom fixtures, door hardware, a revamp of Aquadale's elementary playground, and North Stanley High School softball field, and with the accessibility. We do need a wheelchair lift at West Stanley High School. We need it next year, actually. Playground ADA equipment at Indy Elementary once it's finished. HVAC repairs and replacement. We did just have replacements for North Stanley Middle and for Richfield Elementary School. And I did embed a link there, and I know you want to sit here and read every one of them. You're more than welcome to look at your own time. No, it used to work. There it is. This computer's slow. Okay. Well, why it's not working? Came up on my computer. Here, guys. Just like. Just don't want to do it. Oh, it needs to be up browser update. All right, when I get the browser update. If you can go to that, you'll see 2 spreadsheets. The first spreadsheet is for HVAC replacement. It takes the schools and breaks them down on what HVAC units they need. It's got the model numbers, the prices, and everything. As far as all those things are considered, they're the prices for now. So that's also subject to change with a lot of different things. I won't get into the minutia there. Carpet and flooring coverings, $125,000. Mowing equipment purchase and lease, $125,000. Modular rental, we'll have to rent at Stanfield for another year. Security cameras and metal detectors, security vestibule. Central Elementary and West Stanley High School still do not have them. It's not as easy to put those in as are the other schools. It's going to take a little bit of ingenuity because the entrance is so far from the offices of those 2 individual schools. And there's some fencing opportunities, architect fees for capital projects. And the capital improvement plan, it is a very dense spreadsheet. We have it broken down. We have what our high priorities, medium and low priorities are. Again, we've priced as much as we can without, some of it has to be bidded out. So we kind of give you what we think it may cost now, or we just tell you we'll have to bid this out. But it's about 700 lines. It's a lot of stuff in it. And that's not saying there's one thing for every line. So I know you don't want to sit there and read this to you now. So there's total capital outlay request. We have asked the board if they would break out the technology budget separately than Keith's budget. We do have to have a student and staff device refresh. Our staff devices are very old. We do need to start with a 9th grade refresh. We need about 75 staff laptops. There's a price there. If we upgrade the K2 devices back to 1-to-1, that's kind of what you're looking at there. That's how much the 3 to 12 student devices cost. Administrative devices, that being principals as such, will be about 25 of those devices. And the classroom panels, 10 additional panels. And those are additional panels needed, correct, not replacements. That's what I thought. There's a special budget request for driveway construction in Indy. We've been having issues with cars in 24, 27. Of course, that's going to be exacerbated when Indy opens. So there's the initial request for that. We looked at our fund balance, what our fund balance is going to look like. We started as July 1st, 2024, our local fund balance of 4.9, almost 5 million. We anticipate we spent that down to 2.25 million. And just to let the commissioners know, and I made a couple notes here. One thing that's costing us a lot of money is our EC. And the reason being is we're having, well, first of all, and I know the state's looking at upping the percentage of money given, but what they give isn't enough for us. And we're amongst a lot of other districts having to contract out a lot of EC work, and it's very expensive. Just in the past 3 months, we spent $1.8 million on the local current expense on these contracts. The supplement, of course, that's 3.3 million out of local current expense. And we also have Well, I'll bring that up. That's not as big a number as the other two. The capital outlay fund balance with everything, we were almost 3.5. We look to be under $1 million, about 110,000 at the end of the year, 24, 25. And Terry, you just calculated these yesterday, correct? And you ran payroll on the other local. Okay. We look at the county appropriation and supplemental taxes. This is from the annual report. I looked at the past 10 years for Stanley County, and what's kind of happening is we're not keeping up the pace. In 2014, we were ranked about 85th, and then we kind of got to 100. And this doesn't have any sales tax or anything in it. This is just current expense that goes toward the school systems. So the county appropriation again is the 411 county appropriations, the 4120 supplemental taxes, and we don't have supplemental taxes. Are the teaching salary supplements? I just looked at the surrounding counties, and this again, I went back to one of my priorities is recruitment retention. And I know some of these school systems have more money, but we have to compete. And I just did the surrounding counties where the people actually drive. I didn't go pick out counties that look like us on the other side of the state. But the counties around us, of course, Charlotte, Cabarrus, they have a higher teacher supplement than we do. Montgomery, these are reported from DPI. There's Union, Rowan, Stanley aren't too far apart. And then, of course, Anson. The local budget assumptions we have is anticipated salaries increase from the General Assembly. We don't think it's going to happen right away. It looks like the budget's going to adopt it later, but we would have to retro pay all that. And that incurs a health insurance and retirement increase. And we also are looking at enrollment increases in the county. And the enrollment increases also have to do with, well, I'm going to need some assistant principals now, and we just talked about that earlier, and I'm going to need some additional classified individuals as well, possibly. The retirement contributions are going up as well. It's projected for 2026, the retirement contribution from the employers will be 25.25, and it's increased almost every year. It went down last year for some reason, but it's increased every year, of course, before 2016, but it just seems to be rapidly increasing. And of course, we talked about the West Stanley end, and we all know that map. You've seen that map. If you haven't seen it, I'll be up and say, I won't go into those details. And that's essentially it. Questions you have? I know we're asking for a lot, and we don't expect to get it all. I mean, we're not being foolish here, but we're just trying to show you our priorities and just where we are. So.
I heard you mention potential bonus for teachers that are willing to commit to 4 or 5 years.
Yes. So what we would do is the Teaching Fellow Scholarship. What it does is it says that I'll help pay for your education, but you got to come back and teach for us for 4 years, or you have to pay all or some of that money back depending on how much you work. And we're just going to kind of use that model. I know there's a county who does it out east, and I got the information from them on kind of how to do it, but it's just something like to try. 25 would probably do one, and we were going to look at competitive ways. We weren't going to just say you can go wherever you want to go, like the Teaching Fellows can. There's a gateway and wing it if you get 2 years of Stanley Community College. And I think it's capped at a very low amount, like 2,500 or something. Don't hold me to that number. And I know Pfeiffer's brought their tuition down too in some ways. So I'd like to do that. And I've had conversations with Enamite, and I've had conversations with Scott on that. Maybe a possibility somewhere. There's some I'd like to
Dr. Dennis, do we currently have a signing bonus if someone commits to being a teacher for a period of time?
No, sir, we don't.
We do not have that. At one point we had, correct?
I think
We didn't have it. It was a cage to an amount of time. In Albemarle High School, we used ESSER money, and middle school, we used ESSER monies to give a retention bonus. But it was a bonus after you did a certain amount of work and you got that bonus. It wasn't, I'm going to give you this up front and you owe me so many years.
It wasn't $10,000 over a period.
It was like, what was it? How much was it a month?
$5,000
I mean,
a year
a year.
for teachers.
5,000 a year. That's right.
It was after they got it twice a year. They got it after they had worked through December. They got it in January, and then after they had worked through May, they got it in June.
So it's $5,000 per year. Is that what you just said?
Just the first year, it's like a sign-on bonus.
It was used as, like Dr. Ben said, a retention bonus. So it was given for 2 years out of extra money for retention.
So
Out behind, out on me.
5,000.
Yeah.
What period was that paid? Was it
20,
yeah, was it 5,000 in December?
no, it was $2,500 in December and $2,500 in June.
June. That program no longer exists.
It was
That was
funded
funded
with
through extra funds, and the extra funds was wrote for that purpose. That was the way that grant was wrote. for that.
How many of those teachers did y'all retain?
She's pretty decent. Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers with me right now. But we did, it was pretty decent. What I was kind of a little disappointed, I'll be honest, as I wasn't able to, it wasn't enticing to hire as many. The retention thing, I think was okay, but I thought I could have hired maybe some more. And when I hire more, I mean, we got new hires and we got people in there, but I was hoping some people from other schools would have said, you know what, I see that money and, you know, I'm a successful teacher. I want to go there and help the kids and make some extra money. That never really come to fruition.
Ms. Gibson.
I'm really glad you asked that question, Mr. Lawhorn, because yesterday I had a teacher who is no longer teaching in what we would call our city school, and but she had mentioned to me that how helpful that bonus was when she was there, and that we may not look at it as, you know, that is a real incentive to be at these schools that are hard to staff. But she led me to believe that it really was very helpful to maintain some teachers there and to try to recruit some highly qualified teachers to work in these high need schools. I'm just glad that you asked it because to me, and I look at Patty, you know, I see that for us to be able to keep our teachers, you know, again, and well qualified teachers, it would be nice if we could have the bonus for them. Now, what that adds in funding or whatever, you know, but I'm just saying, I think that those are hard schools to teach in. They're very hard, and and we have excellent teachers and people, but I think the burnout is high.
I would like to say, when I used to teach at the academy, that was apparently they were in front of me when I went there because I was going to benefit from that bonus. And I was very much appreciative because it was a harder school to teach at. But I agree with that. My question is, how many of these positions would you be funding? Is this all new hires? And how is that looked on by the teachers who've been there and they have the longevity and they don't benefit from that? So
We would have to give it to all of them because like you said, if you're just giving new hires, yeah, teachers have been there for a while. Yeah. When we did, when we did the ones with Master money, everyone. When you did calculations for that, it was for the whole staff. Really.
And I don't know how many more have it, but I mean, I do know that there's some teachers that are still there that are there. Yes, they're there, and we're grateful that they're there. Some live, you know, teaching in other schools.
Well, that's what I've heard is like Patty's comment, is the 25-year teachers are getting frustrated because the new hires are getting most of them. Because who knows, they're just frustrated several directions. State pay scale, it tops out at like one they don't see. And so they're already thinking, guys been here, if ladies been here 25, 30 years, getting nothing pay raise, whereas your new hire, everything's like every year. Okay, so it was two-sided issue. It's not just us. And I think one of the legislative bill from the House, their funding bill is going to address that a little bit, but more senior. Of course, it's got to get through the Senate.
Yeah, in the past, the state has not looked after the veteran teachers. They really have not. So it's been up to local if there was anything done in that area.
Well, I reckon, and I don't know exactly, but they look at, they're maintaining their obligations and their retirement
Right.
and to their benefit package, where I think the newer teachers don't get quite the
Right.
same. as
Well, they took the healthcare out of the retirement too.
Yeah, it's not.
You have the schools that remove the bonus. I mean, I know you know, but how many schools we talk about? High school, middle school.
What were our high need schools that received our ESSER bonuses? They were,
We addressed that in the budget, that
uh-huh.
majority of the schools that would be your inner city schools, the 4 inner city schools.
So we're talking East Central, our middle, and our high school. And that's the four that I think when we gave that bonus to, that's the four.
And are you expecting the bonus to be the same amount or a lesser than amount?
I'm not answer that other than to say, I believe, and you used the word appreciative. I think that for our teachers and, they're appreciative of that. What if?
Question. What about redistricting in those trouble, those hard to teach schools to try to lessen some of the pressure? Have y'all looked at that?
The pressure issue isn't a population pressure issue. So as far as redistricting, you would be moving kids all over the place. And that, the only thing we haven't tried to work at creative ways through this. And then when we get into logistics as far as transportation efficiency and a lot of things that go into those, it becomes very difficult.
There's a lot of money spent. Not saying they don't need it, but there's a lot of money spent on salaries that, where transportation can blend some of that. But
Our biggest, of course, our biggest thing we pay for is salaries, especially, with state money, stuff like that.
I don't think anything's off the table during as we continue to work. We work, communities, because these are questions that you brought up that we talked about in the past. Sometimes we figure in things
That's
that
fair.
it's hard.
If I can, we talked about not redistricting, but possibly refiguring some of the
Yeah.
grant bands to alleviate the.
Potential issues that occur.
Yeah, right. In specific grades, like when you switch from an elementary to middle.
oh yeah,
So to sort of maneuver some of those grade bands are going to try to alleviate, but not necessarily redistrict.
and that's
If that makes sense.
And our challenge was, central, that what can be on what floor.
Yeah,
As
we have
children,
some building
you know,
issues with some.
Right.
Yeah.
But nothing's off the table with what you said, looking at. And again, I just want to come back to, I'm glad, Mr. Lawhon, I'm just glad you brought that up because not only, our board, you as well, to retain, recruit, and have our highly qualified teachers and to be there in part of the staff school. We need
Bill comes in handy sometimes.
we need that.
Thank you, Fran.
We would be remiss not to say that we do have some very dedicated staff. Those
We do.
that have taught their entire careers there.
And they want to stay.
And I think as far as talking about these incentives, just like Ms. Tomlin said, we need more staff to become dedicated into those schools because we have a section of or a segment of the staff who are dedicated in mainstays, and we have a segment of the staff very high attrition. And that seems to be, I'll just say like it seems to be some of the ones. We have those 20 to 25 year, those teachers, they've been there for a while, they're dedicated.
And some of the teachers I've talked to, well, a lot of, and back, I'm getting old now, but back when I was in
Yes,
school,
you are.
they, you went to elementary school and the same teachers were there for 25,
Right.
their whole career. And I, and same with high school and principals. And so I'm trying to reflect on that, and those teachers are, they live in that community. And so there's some accountability there. There's some relationships that would be more than paid, hey, I've been here 25 years. I've taught my kids, my neighbors' kids, my kids. And I think that would help on some of the
Well, it's
keeping
huge
people there.
because it's consistency.
Yes.
It's
yeah, exactly.
consistency there.
And that's the key to teaching.
How many teachers would be in those schools?
Old enough to take a second. Do you remember what your? I got the student number.
I don't know right off. Central has a lot. Central has a lot of teachers there because of the number of students they have.
Is it, you gotta think about counselors too, because they get.
Yeah, I would probably say for all four of those schools, you're probably looking at close to 100, if not just a fraction over when it comes to
It'll be more than
certified
that.
staff.
It'll be more than that.
What was the other school? I must have missed one. I got.
You got
East,
East Central
Alabama,
Alabama High School.
You're talking all staff administration as well.
We did administration last time.
Is that classified as well?
No, classified got a different one.
Yeah.
But we did that, they did get some.
It's not the
classified.
same.
I mean, we did the district classified. Remember that? Yeah. Now. Yes, absolutely. I did that.
It was 1,000.
When you think about that, then also, and I'm just gonna make this general statement. I know it was in there about like our teacher supplements, but you know, for all of our staff across, you know, even though they're not in that city school, or hard to staff, that I just don't want us to leave out whatever it might be, putting out all of our teachers across the district. I would-
What are supplements paid? When are supplements? paid?
June was it?
Supplements are paid in November, up to the Thanksgiving holiday, and then in June.
How much were they this?
We're by the time we pay the June supplement this year, we'll have almost $4.4 million in teacher supplements or certified supplements.
They receive 6%.
And I know that that is something that we have addressed, just wanting to see an incremental, if we can, an incremental increase, just so that. And again, I think it's important if you're looking at bonuses for schools, for your staff. You know, I want all of our people to know they're important and we're trying to retain and recruit. That they see something. Again, I go back to your word appreciative, you know, of our people.
What are the charter schools doing in the tank?
I don't know that one.
I mean, I think that's, there seem to be
I
a
can-
decent.
I can speak to that.
Yeah.
I still have my phone slips in my pocket. Yeah. Okay. Now, this is just something to, this is Rowan Salisbury schools now have a charter school status, the whole school system. They are a charter school designation. And I say, okay, got that. What's the benefits? Well, here's a couple of them. One is the testing. It's not as stringent in public schools. You know, you got gateways like first grade and eighth grade. Biggest thing that Jim Green, which you get this, Jim Green is county commissioner and his son's school board. So, you know, they got a jihad. Flexible hiring. Outside teachers, experts, and I'm one of those, are contracted part-time. You don't have to pay benefits, you don't have to pay retirement, you don't have to pay hospitalization. And by being at charter school, they're bringing people in that can teach physics. We have a hard time finding a physics teacher and calculus teachers. So by that designation, I said, well, why would you want to, you know, they receive that. They're not the only school in the state that has that. Also, federal government dictates what kind of food we have to serve. I'll give you an example. Now, y'all probably won't hear this. They came when I was like a new teacher. Harry Starr was our principal, and Betty Starr was the board director, school, also at Piper College. And they came in and said, hey, we want a schedule. We just had 2 fatalities. And the kids had an hour for lunch. And we had 2 kids lose their lives. And Dr. Starr said, they had an hour for lunch. You don't give kids an hour for lunch. I mean, you drivers. So anyway, We went through the school board, it was approved. Went through the state school board, it's approved. We're getting out 1:30. Starting school at 7:30. Had to go 6.5 hours. Is that 6.5 hours? Anyway, I had to go 6.5. Great for athletic teams, great for people getting off, going to work. We were going to implement it the next year. Guess what? Federal government came in and they said, you're going to feed those kids one lunch, or we're going to take every bit of the money we have. They, federal government starts taking money out. You go, okay, that's it. So the federal government has a big hand. Not only the type of food, but the testing. They were able, Jim said, Phil, you won't believe the money that we're able to save by, and you say, well, how do you get somebody out the street? No, it's, Richie Hearn was, I mean, he was the, okay, Rick, I'm sorry to talk about you. You know, he's teaching engineering. This is a guy that's got, 30 something years in state of North Carolina laying out roads, and he's coming in and teaching the kids. And, he's just being contracted. There's no benefits or anything like that. I'm just throwing this out. That's a way to save money. Another way is that you don't have to hire an architect to do a new building in the state of North Carolina. Rowan, Knox Middle School. I don't know if you know Knox, it's right behind the hospital. The bid came out at 81 million for Knox Middle School. That was the first bid, and they said, get out of here. Well, what happened, they found out that you can go to Raleigh, NCDPI, and there is boatloads. Every school that's ever been built in the state of North Carolina had to turn in a floor plan, a construction floor plan. You have to get money. So those floor plans aren't available. So before you, and I'm gonna tell you, because I teach, 12% is the going rate. 12%. Ever what the construction of the building is 100 million, that's $12 million. I know, hopefully we don't ever have, 100 million. They get 12%, and it takes them a year. We've had the hospital, we had the jail, and it's been, they're still drawing. One more thing, before I hush. A mega construction. Now I'm just throwing this out again. I'm not saying a mega construction built Greystone. Now the foundation was there. They started putting the walls up at 6 a.m. in the morning. They had all the walls up by 2 p.m. that same day. Now it takes 3 and 4 years to build schools. Schools are not being built the way they used to be. It's called design build. Now, state of North Carolina likes to get their hands in the pot whenever you start building your school. They want you to build this, and then you have to turn this in, turn all these different regulations in. Now, here's my question. Hopefully, I know what y'all. And I was, I asked, and I think I know the answer, but the question is, can needs-based grants, funds be used in a lease agreement? So in other words, can you lease? Say there's a school, can you use the money in a needs-based grant to lease a building?
Yes.
Construction.
I don't think you can do it like a chartered management group. I know they can build it and it's leased and, some other things, but I haven't read any of the application when I said.
Well, that was one of the questions in the needs-based grants. And somebody sent this question in and said, can needs-based grant funds be used for a lease agreement? And it says, yes, if all of the following are met. You said, well, what are we going to use the lease for? Would it
Answer your question? You said all of Rowan County charter?
Yes, the whole school
But
system. All
isn't that called
It's not a
restart?
restart.
That's called
Yeah.
a restart.
Rowan Salisbury
It's
Schools.
the restart program. It's not the same. Restart, I'm not trying to
Right.
shoot you.
Well, they got the benefits of charter
Restart
schools.
is not the same, and I will point out that the Rowan County school system is miles behind Stanley County school systems as a system on the SAS grades for school proficiency, the SPG score. Whereas the only charter I was familiar with was Faith Charter, which is an amazing school.
This is something new. This is something new that should come out.
Was the one elementary school in Rowan County that was here every year listed in the U.S. News and World Report as the top school in North Carolina in the country. When they closed that school in an effort to redistrict the demographic issues, they just failed out. The parents says, no, we're going to start a charter. So you had a school that was already high functioning that was a K-6 or K-5. It's now a K-12 charter. And so I understand a lot of those folks stay
I don't know what the actual, the acronym is or the name, but I know that they can hire people from outside. You don't have to pay benefits. You don't have to pay medical insurance. You don't have a retirement, and that's a savings for the employees. I'm a teacher. I'm
I
not here.
understand your position, but here's my position as a former teacher. If we have 70% of our schools making growth, 70 or 80% now, we go to a restart model like Rowan County did. Their scores actually came down. They were bad and they came down from bad. If we can't offer quality education system in this county, I agree with you 100%. The charters have so much flexibility and latitude we don't have. But listen, I'm not going to say, I don't see us throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and I think that's what we do. If you do, I'll be glad to share some research on that restart
Well,
program.
I think what Billy's trying to say is there's lots of good examples in what he's talking about. I don't think he's saying to go to it. It's just, let's look at everything. And the faith
Love you away from
is an awesome,
federal
is an awesome
school, state government interfering in every decision you make because it makes it more expensive. I'm guaranteed he's preaching gospel about building schools.
Well,
we do.
Greystone was like 135 a foot. Am I right? Bill went-
It's a pretty
around
efficient
there.
building. We toured it a couple of years ago and talked to Jim. And they poured the walls and they would say versus doing the blocks.
Yeah.
So the committee's looked at that. It is very efficient to build the school.
The reason I brought up about leasing a building, we contacted Mega Construction. We went up and met with them. And they said, we'll put it in the dollars for 2025. We can build Greystone, that first building, not the middle school, just the first building. We can do it for 22 million, in between 18 million and 22 million. That's a high school. You're talking 65 million? And they've already be about 400. When you got a school,
And a G.
kids are not using lockers anymore because their books are on their laptop. Now, it's good to have lockers, but that's the $500,000 savings. Anyway, whenever you build the school, there's a lot of things that's involved, but the thing that what's the hardest about this is that we're going to probably have to have some kind of legislation in order to get that approved because of the bid process. You can do it. And whenever we talk to Mega Construction, these guys were good. What I was going to say, it's just like school. Think about all your schools. You've got a hallway down the middle, and you've got room, 750 square feet. That's what you have to have. Room. You can't get away from that hallway down the middle. How many schools that doesn't have a hallway? Hallway's a waste of space, but still you got to have that. You got to have two doors. You don't have windows. Why? Because if there's a fire out in the hall, the kids got no way to escape. So these are just some ideas, some things we've been. Education is my life, and I want this to happen. I don't want to lose Stanley County. So these are just some ideas, but that's the reason I asked, could the county commissioners, and I haven't discussed, I have discussed it, could we build a building? And would this be possible? We pay for it. Stanley County Schools uses it. Don't pay us any rent or anything. And then in 15, 20 years, we give it to you. It's sort of like y'all were renting this. I mean, could we build a building? We'd be saving taxpayers from 22 million to 65 million. You're talking $40 million. I mean, to me, I don't even know what $1 million looks like. But is there any way that we could possibly do this? Because there's people starting to do it. If we could build a building and then Stanley County Schools use the building, I know y'all want to have it. We would do the maintenance. Well, that's what they say. I'm sorry, I'll take that back. That's what they that's what the state says.
I don't think the school system's going to turn down a school building.
Well, take whatever. Take whatever we can.
Any of us would say.
The bottom line is we're going to save taxpayers about it's anywhere from 40 to $50 million, and especially on that architect fee. We don't have to have an architect draw up a plan. All you gotta do is go to NCDPI. You've got to get the architect to sign it over. He's got liability. Architects, when they make a plan, they have liability, and they've got to give that to everyone who takes it. And so far, what I've heard, every one of them will.
Madam Chair, may I just, I know that Mr. Lisk has, toured and he's met with, I think, as far as what you're saying. And, again, all of it as his comments, we're not turning down anything. You know, we're at this process, as the commissioners know, that, you know, we're looking at our facilities and we're looking at our needs-based grants, and that's things that we're going to be, we know that we're going to be working on that diligently in this next coming, what would you say, couple months? I mean, diligently. So everything that I think that you have said, we will take all of that into consideration. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And I'm glad you shared that. But the needs-based grant is something that I'm glad that you brought up, because that is something that we will be working on again diligently over the next couple of months, and doing a very intense and very good job with that in order to present something to the commissioners.
Oh,
And I think you already know that, I'm sure, I hope you don't mind that I'm talking, that of course, a real priority for us, and I think we might be a little off subject, so I know Ms. Whitaker's going to get us back on subject, but it's certainly Oak Road. So that's a real priority need for us. I think all of you know that. Mr. King, you were there when we met with commissioners, and thank you for being there. But we'll be discussing all that. That is something that I know that we will be meeting and talking with you more.
Can y'all like send us some information, even, you know, so we don't have to, I mean, it's a lot of trouble for us to do. And I don't mind me, but like when y'all see stuff coming down the pipe, we would love to hear about it instead of waiting 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
I think that would help.
We can. And I think the thing is too, I know that it's going to be, even our board has been trying to work on tweaking new and trying to get us together. It's summertime, but I feel like, and I may be speaking out of turn here, Madam Chair, but I do think that we're going to have to find a time, like our board, as far as meeting, and I think then we're going to have to find a time that we're meeting with you. And I know it's summer, and it may not be everybody that can meet. I don't know, but it's summertime, and I know people are vacationing, but we got needs, and we've got this. It's a high priority, and I know that we're going to be coming to you as far as the meeting.
Yeah, I know you started to ask
Yeah,
questions.
we need ample time. So when you all request a grant, we need that paperwork more than 3 or 4 days.
Right. Yes, sir.
That will happen this year.
Yes.
And Madam Chair, point of clarification, for that needs-based grant, we do have to go through architect company's plans. Is that correct?
Yes. Any other questions?
What's your total budget? I know what you're asking the county.
What's our total budget this year?
Yes. What do you, your last year's budget, if I'm not mistaken, was like $115 million.
We had all the ESSER money in the last year's budget, and that's come out. When I asked Terry the other day, we were, what already? One,
We're about right now, about sitting about 107 million.
okay, yeah, I knew it was about right on that, somewhere close to it.
To make further understand, to apply for that grant to be considered, we have to already have like an architect plans and all that lined up.
But if you don't use that grant, you don't have to resort to it.
Right. I just wanted to make sure that
Everything you said.
It's gonna take all of you.
Thank you for sharing.
Right.
The ones they're awarding has architects involved in the design.
The further along they are in the process, the more likely they are to receive the grant.
That's right.
What was it grant for?
65, 64 million.
It's up to 62 million.
64.
This would include a high school project. So when I talked to the director at one of the conferences, Nathan, who's over, it's 42, 52, 62 from elementary, middle to high. You can include, for example, like a high school project that would fall under some of their stipulations. Say that's a $10 million project out of the 62. Then you could build a middle school, a elementary school, and then possibly look at like an addition onto a middle school, all for the 62. They would require a cover letter explaining that and some of the things that Mrs. Poplar mentioned, but it is doable. And we have given that option some serious consideration. The other part that we've learned is obviously once the architects are involved, that they're seemingly having a 1 to 3 year time frame between getting these grants done. They're now into the tier 2 projects. But it's also, I guess, been made aware that although there are minimums set for each county, like ours is 5%, so for 62, roughly $3 million, that in order to, I guess, how I would say it, get a higher priority on that list, it's better when the county makes a higher commitment than just the minimum. So one of the poorer counties, I can't remember which one it was, gave 13 million towards the project, and that bumped them up versus, say, the 5% that they were at.
Madam Chair, if I can also clarify too, one of the stipulations on that needs-based grant was basically proof of consolidation. Was it 2 or 3? Two or more schools for, just into one to also apply.
But in Oakboro,
But
for
that's not-
example, doesn't have a district.
Right.
And so with an Oakboro drawing a district, that brings the Oakboro students that are attending Aquadale back into an Oakboro school.
So you'd have to draw a separate district.
So you would draw something that looks,
It's almost like.
well,
what
Brandon,
might
you
get
saw it
at
at the,
Yeah.
at the town commissioner. Oakboro. It's similar to the old district.
Right.
Any other questions?
But if you're gonna apply to the high school to get the 10 million towards the high school, you have to consolidate 2 high schools to qualify for that.
No, so an example on that is, say, for example, I'm just making up a scenario that the two entities here decided that West Allen High School needed renovation and or expansion, as it sits. And in order to possibly do that, we would need to move the athletic fields and move them where we positioned around where the track is. That could be like a football field, the baseball field, move the softball field and the tennis court. You come back and clear it out, and that would create room to add on, renovate, and expand. A project like that could fall under that stipulation because, again, that would bring Oakboro back into the western field. And so because you're bringing those students from the southern end, that falls under a quote unquote consolidation.
And I will say, nothing says you have to consolidate. There's just priorities they list, and that's one of them. There's a critical need, and there's several of them.
There's 7 of
Yeah,
them,
you got it right there, Billy. Good job.
and that's number 6.
I think it does. say combine into
It is one.
Right.
Yeah.
The other ones are needs, and it's a tier, type tier,
Yeah.
the debt to tax ratio, critical deficiencies like for our tester ban, new construction or complete renovation, have not received a grant in the previous 3 years, which we haven't. So looks like we could have a good chance at that. But there's 7 that these are how applications are evaluated.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And we are hoping, I think, that last thing that you said, we never received. So it's like we're keeping fingers crossed with that. Can I move on to another topic to talk with them about? Okay, we've got a few minutes. I want to address the technology, if I may. And the reason is when I'm in the schools and I have had teachers that have reached out to many of us. Dr. Dennis and Mr. Bannon helped me. Last year, I know that we were not able to do our K2 devices in our K2 classrooms. We only had about half what they needed in each class, Dr. Dennis. It wasn't one-on-one anymore. And we really have our teachers in the K2 reaching back saying it's a real need if you can have that one-to-one device. And I know sometimes you look at that and you say, well, I don't want the child on the device all the time. They don't need technology all the time. I get it. And we get it because we also are using books and consumables in those classes now. But when you look at standard course of study and everything, they've got to prepare for how to use that computer and their testing. And as they get into third grade, and they've got a component in there that's writing, and a lot of it is you're looking at the lessons, everything with media, everything somewhat with your technology. I just wanted to point out that I feel like that it was a disservice to our K2 teachers that they did not have full sets of the devices. Now, whether that can happen again for the coming year, I don't know, but teachers know that I'm going to be a voice for them. As you know, I'm going to be a voice for them. And I see what they're saying with needing the K2 devices for one-to-one. Now, I know we've got other things on technology there as well with replenishing some things and our teachers and what our teachers need. That's all important. It's all important. I just want to stress.
What's the dollar amount on that?
What was that?
It's 450,000.
How many?
For the K2.
1,000.
Thousand?
I'm not on the same page with that. I have some staff that reached out that I feel like K2 students need books, they need pages, they need to have an actual book in front of their hand. Now, we have computers on a cart, those classrooms shared for testing and for evaluations and for all those things. I'm very, very in opinion with Ms. Gibson. Not that our students don't need technology and be exposed to it, how to use it, but K2 students don't need to be in front of a computer all day, every day in a classroom. And unfortunately, some of our staff overuse computers, I think. I'm not saying they all do, but it can be a hindrance sometimes in the K2 classroom. So I am not in the same opinion on that. I think our teachers do a good job of limiting that when they have the computers on a cart. And some of them share those carts, and they do have to have a schedule of how those carts go around. Schedule of that assessment time and all of those things. But we didn't have them prior to COVID. Those were bought with ESSER funds, and I just wanted to put $450,000 for one-to-one devices for K2. I think K2 can. Necessary. So that's just.
Thank you, Ms. Motley.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If you guys didn't have any other questions,
I have one.
Brenda?
Just
Okay.
curious, we talked about technology and millions on technology. How much money was spent on technology, taking it out of the central office here, moving to the central office? What was the dollar amount of that technology move?
Off the top of my head,
Pretty substantial, I imagine. Just curious.
Yeah,
Y'all know.
we can get that number for you.
Okay, I was just curious what we spent on that.
If there's not anything else,
I
then
do have
you
one
got something
question.
else? Y'all go.
It relates to the property out in Locust, the house that was purchased for
30,000, right.
the,
Not sure what.
Psychology.
The psychology rented at one time.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah, it was first, what's the future plans for that property?
We are waiting right now to have that survey. We have a surveyor that, Mr. Benton, I know, is talking with the local surveyor. We're waiting on them to survey that land.
Was it not surveyed when you purchased it?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether that is, but that is something we're in the process of trying to do.
On surveyor? What surveyor are you waiting?
One is in Apple.
You don't know the name?
It's, yes.
Okay.
There's not there that you can use. Well, it's not just.
And one more thing, and I know we gotta go, but I know we talked, you guys slide showed the mowing equipment, 125,000. And if that's 125,000, then you have employees to staff that, and you have benefits to staff that. I know before we used to subcontract all that out, and in my opinion, I don't know how opinions are. The schools, all the facilities looked amazing when they were contracted out, and now it seems like the guys can't get to them all because they're spread thin. I mean, I think there's 2 or 3 guys in that. Have y'all considered going back to contract on those?
They were not amazing, and we ran into lots of issues
we
with
did.
that, and that took an extensive review.
That was done with Dr. James' opinion. That's when it went through,
We,
in-house.
that ran through committee, and the board, and, that has definitely been looked at. And there were lots of issues, both financially and just at the mowing level.
And Dr. Dennis,
Yes, sir.
I asked the question. I understand you're getting property survey, but what's the future use? What are your
Closed
plans?
session.
That's a closed session item. I don't think I can discuss because that's property acquisition.
Yeah. When we make a decision on that, Donnie, you'll be the first.
Yeah, I'd like to
person
know.
You will.
Because it's sad when I drive by the house. It's sitting
Well,
there.
in fact, I think we do have some closed session business that we need to discuss with you and your board, if we can find it. That being,
I've got somebody now that show you want.
Yeah, can I ask you,
Yes, go ahead.
what about recruitment from HBCU, historic black colleges, teachers?
We go to recruiting events at a lot of schools at HBCU. So I know they went to Winston State not too long ago. So we did go to events at those schools.
So y'all, like, cause there's a lot of teachers coming out this year looking for jobs, so.
And we'll give them one as soon as they fill out the application.
I was just wondering, cause I know I don't see many, it ain't many African American teachers in our county, so what are we doing to draw them here? I mean, I'm quite sure they're moving into these developments, but they're driving to other counties to teach. I guess that's what they say, we need to get the incentive, so at that point in time, if we get that incentive, of course, I'm a new teacher, I need that money to buy me a house.
Does the board hold a exit interview for the teachers that leave? I have
Do
a
or
comment.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. If you.
Well, we take them
respond.
Do you do exit interviews for teachers that are leaving?
Yes, we have a form that we give them now. Where they fill it out or not is up to them. But we do list several questions on the form and ask them why they're leaving and things like that. Yes, sir.
But not face to face.
Any other questions from your?
Yes. So I'm assuming you are gonna apply again for the needs-based grant. And so last year, I know we came together, that there were 4 grants, I believe, that we privately, reviewed. Just from our perspective, I know the week before, there was a meeting between 3 commissioners and 3 school board members, and the conversations were based around the fact that this needs-based grant would be looking at the consolidation of South Stanley, Albemarle, and North Stanley, and then in addition to West. But when we got the paperwork just several days after that meeting and after months of those conversations going on, the paperwork said South Stanley and West Stanley would be combined, and then North Stanley and Albemarle would be combined. And we were all, had a lot of question marks, and nobody from the board showed up to discuss it or to answer our questions.
with
And
all
so-
due respect, Mrs. Strauss, that
I'm
was
still
discussed
talking.
at length
I'm still talking, Mr. Lynn.
prior to that. At
And
length.
so the conversation that we had was how in a few days, after months of these conversations, did the schools change from 2 different schools being consolidated to 2 other schools being consolidated. And so then it was like, okay, so is the plan clear enough to actually be bold enough to ask for these dollars and for us to be bold enough to say, sure, we'll sign off on it. We'll sign off on this because we don't have even a plot of land to build this school. Nor do we know if this is the 3 schools that are going to be built. And we have to answer to all the people in this county on where their tax dollars are going to go. But we got blasted afterward. And so I'm taking this time just to say, we need to work together, but we definitely need good information.
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up. My opinion, I'm not on that committee, is that the grant should be presented to you specific as possible. Tied down to what we're trying to do exactly before it's the 12th hour or 11th hour. I'll admit it, I was the sole board member that voted against sending that resolution to you folks because there was ambiguity in it. I'm not trying to kneecap anybody. I'm not supporting anything else. I know that when the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, what exactly or specifically trying to do? That's the essential question.
Yes.
I'm gonna smile at you because I was thinking the same thing. We need to nail it down.
We need to nail it down and we need to be specific. I want to hear the plan. And I know you can only get so far in the plan when you are presenting it, whenever you're so far out from the end mark.
Right.
But for us to approve, yes, sure, we'll spend this money and we can't even tell the community where that school's going to be placed or if the community actually wants that to happen. I mean, there's a lot of question marks there. So I do not feel comfortable signing off on that, nor do we have anyone there to answer questions. So I hope that in the process moving forward, like I think someone here said, can have that information come more often into our email so we can review at home and then we know in advance the questions that we need to ask when we come and sit down again at the table.
And I think I answered that a little earlier. I'm not sure who brought that up, whether it was Bill or Trent, but I just said that process will be different this year. We will get that to you in a timely fashion.
And we are going to have to move.
Yes.
I'm going to have to find.
I think one of the problems is the committee was not public. And so there was lots of information that was discussed between the 2 committees at length. And initiatives leaving that last meeting that you're referencing. That I don't know that you have that full information, maybe you do. But I agree, and I agree with you, and as I mentioned to Bill, that there is some other business that I believe these 2 boards need to have a closed session as soon as possible. We realize, and I'm not speaking, I realize as a board member, as a vice chair, as a committee member on the facilities for my time that these are funded by the county. This is not funded by the school system. And I think there's been efforts over the last 3 years that I served to try to work together. Somewhere along the way, that has become contentious. And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be because the buildings are falling down. Going to have to take action. And I agree with Mr. Mills. I've looked at that. I mean, I had to pack it at home. And it is very cost efficient. I have spoken with Jim. I think there are ways that the 2 boards can come together in a more congenial manner.
And if I can
We
add
would
to
like to just say, instead of, I think the way our committee felt when it was just the 3, and there was 3 of you, that information that we had in those committee meetings wasn't necessarily, and it's hard to take everything back when you have a committee. We don't expect that committee to go back and repeat word for word, but it's hard for you to take that consensus back and share it with your board. And a lot of times we felt like maybe that didn't happen.
We spent
So-
hours after those meetings.
Yeah, so
Communicate.
yeah, we would like to just meet boards as a whole, all of that boards together, not do a committee of 3 and 3. It be our complete board and your complete board, and then we're all on the same page. We've all heard the same information, and we have what we need in order to be able to make an educated decision.
And again, I want to point out, thank you, for what was said. And also, I don't feel that anything at this meeting tonight has been contentious at all. So what I'm seeing in here is that we've got 2 boards that I feel like want to work together. And we want to put the educational needs as a high priority. uh, In our county, I feel that,
Next time we're gonna sit side by side and struggle. Two artists going at each other. One last thing, this is just things I've run across in 39 years of teaching. I've taught many people, taught at South Stanley, you know, 12 at the time. A grant writer. We used to have the most fabulous grant writer in Roy. At one time, I said, "Can you give me a bass boat?" I mean, she would get everything. I mean, it's just, I mean, really. I mean, a grant writer, they'll pay their own salary. I mean, Dr. Dennis said he was having to do it. And I thought, man, he ain't got time.
before your time, but last year it was brought up that the two boards possibly share a grant writer, between the two entities, and, I don't know where that fell after that was brought up, but, that has been.
They'll pay their own salary.
That
So
has-
whatever else we get, I mean, it's crazy. Yeah,
that has been on the
great.
radar also.
Yeah.
Yeah, they, let me clarify, because I thought something got back to me that I read. And I thought, what in the world, would anybody think I read the newspaper? They would not have, I mean, that certainly didn't.
Okay, so any other questions from?
I've got one. We were talking about having a meeting between the two boards. Is that clarified? Is that gonna be a closed session meeting?
We're gonna have to have a closed session.
Can we do that? Having two full boards, have a closed session meeting?
Yeah.
What would be the topic that we go into closed session for?
It'd have to be property.
Would have to be personnel, or we can't go personnel, you're on our personnel. Property acquisition.
Whatever. I just wondered how we go about doing
Yeah.
that. So there's.
Good question.
If there's no other questions from you, I'm gonna entertain from a motion from my board to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. We are adjourned.
County Commissioners help the school board come to business.